Biden wants to inoculate as many people as possible. So you have to get an annual shot. I mean, it hasn't been formally announced yet, because they don't want to rile everyone up. The drug companies, the food companies, the vaccine companies, they pay us hundreds of millions of dollars a year to hire and keep the reviewers to approve their products. If they can get every person required at an annual vaccine, that is a recurring return of money going into their company. I mean, just from everything I've heard, they're not going to not approve it.
Meet Christopher Cole, an executive officer at the FDA with over 20 years' experience who claims to be directly involved in the approval process of the various COVID vaccines. What you're about to witness raises some alarming concerns, from the government's desire to mandate an annual vaccine for everyone, including young children, to the billions of dollars that exchange hands between our government and Big Pharma to railroad the approval process.
So you have to get an annual shot. I mean, it hasn't been formally announced yet, because they don't want to rile everyone up. So I think what's going to happen is it's going to be a gradual thing. Schools are going to mandate it.
Why do they need the third one?
Well, the same reason that you or I would need the third one, because the vaccine, it wanes. Mm-hmm. Your ability to fight it wanes. So the 3 will bolster your system. And then there will be an annual, eventually an annual, just like the flu shot.
For the toddlers?
Well, for everyone.
You guys have been in the news a lot the last couple of days.
Yeah, we're looking at trying to approve. I don't completely agree with the process. They're looking at trying to inoculate kids under 5 years old, between 6 months and 5 years old.
What do you mean you don't agree with the process?
Well, I mean they don't have all the tests aren't there. So I agree with the thing that it is important to inoculate them. But you can't provide the parent as much a surety as you normally want to.
Despite Cole's concerns regarding the possible dangers of vaccinating young children, it seems the FDA is still willing to go through with this approval.
It's an EUA for all age groups, all designations, and then you have to get approved by specific age groups based on the study.
Do you think it's really an emergency for the toddlers?
Well, they're all approved under an emergency, just because it's not as impactful as some of the other approvals, emergency approvals, but they're all being approved under that standard. The efficacy data doesn't have to be as high. The standard is on emergency use authorizations is that it does more benefit than harm.
So how do you know it's already getting approved?
Well, they're not going to, I mean, just from everything I've heard, they're not going to not approve it.
I thought their cases weren't that high for 6 month to 4-year-olds.
They're not, but because it's related to COVID, it's under that approval process.
So how many babies did they have to jab, basically, for the trial?
I don't know. I haven't looked at the trial, how many people they did. There's always a chance of long-term effects, especially with someone younger. It's hard to find like pregnant women for these studies, and a significant number in order to be statistically accurate. I haven't tested enough on pregnancy, on vaccines and everything, and women, because they have different systems than men. And
they haven't tested enough?
Well, they have, but they haven't done enough prior. Now they've also been very good at promoting that, but that was an issue for a period of time.
Well, I feel like that's still an issue.
It is still an issue. We still haven't gotten there.
I read like a couple articles about it, and everything I saw was that the first 2 shots weren't effective.
There has been, yes, it has not been as effective as they're expecting. I agree. There's almost $1 billion a year going into FDA's budget from the people we regulate. If they can get every person required at an annual vaccine, that is a recurring return of money going into their company.
With Russian forces by air and sea ramping up their training missions as the showdown over Ukraine escalates, President Biden says the U.S. remains committed to diplomacy, but will respond forcefully if Russia invades.
With Russia continuing its buildup of its forces around Ukraine, we are ready no matter what happens.
Those tensions on full display Monday during a meeting of the UN Security Council, a bitter diplomatic clash between the U.S. and Russia, reminiscent of the Cold War, with both sides blaming the other for the crisis. The U.S.'s UN ambassador condemning Russian aggression as dangerous, a threat to Ukraine and to Europe.
Russia's actions strike at the very heart of the UN Charter. This is as clear and consequential a threat to peace and security as anyone can imagine.
Russia's ambassador insists Moscow has no plans to invade, accusing the U.S. and its allies of whipping up hysteria to try to weaken Russia.
You are almost calling for this. You want it to happen. You're waiting for it to happen, as if you want to make your words become a reality.
Still, despite its protests, Russia is showing no signs of backing down. And in Ukraine, U.S. military advisors are training local troops. The pressure is building here at home as well. A bipartisan group of senators could soon have a deal on stiff sanctions meant to deter Vladimir Putin from invading and severely punishing Russia if it does. And the White House says it's now developed specific sanction packages to target Russian elites who are in or near Putin's inner circle if he proceeds.
And today, the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson travels to Kyiv for talks with Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky. On Monday, Johnson said that Vladimir Putin needed to step back from the brink. But one ominous sign about Putin's intentions right now, the Russians have recently begun moving in supplies of blood to their troops along the Ukrainian border, what could be a sign that they are in the final stages of preparation for an invasion. Savannah?
Or a little psychological warfare. We'll see about that, Peter.
УАЗик, достаточно мощный взрыв. До сих пор видно, что рядом. Вот мы сейчас, ребят, давайте посмотрим. Сейчас мы посмотрим, всем автобус отхватит всех.
We have reason to believe the Russian forces are planning to and intend to attack Ukraine in the coming week, in the coming days. We believe that they will target Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, a city of 2.8 million innocent people. Russia has a choice between war and all the suffering it will bring, or diplomacy that will make a future safer for everyone.
We begin tonight with these major developments involving Russia and Vladimir Putin's moves involving Ukraine. 24 hours after Putin said he was recognizing two Russian-backed regions of Ukraine as independent, tonight President Biden before the American people calling it the beginning of a Russian invasion of Ukraine. The president saying Putin is planning to essentially carve out a big chunk of Ukraine. President Biden now announcing severe sanctions on Russian banks and wealthy Russians, warning it's just the beginning. If Putin takes another step, that there could be more. America's allies tonight united, acting quickly, the EU imposing sanctions of its own. And late today, we learned Secretary of State Antony Blinken has now canceled that meeting planned with the Russian foreign minister that had been set for this Thursday. That wasn't a surprise, but one more sign tonight reflecting the seriousness of this moment. President Biden speaking to the nation late today, calling Russia's actions a flagrant violation of international law, saying, who in the Lord's name does Putin think gives him the right to declare new so-called countries? A unanimous vote for sanctions from all 27 countries of the European Union.
So keep your head up.